Welcome into the Gramlich and McLean podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and McLean. We're back, Mac, with our summer guest series. We took Memorial Day off. You know, everyone deserves a break.
Of course.
If you did see, I did not take the week off from content because I had a hot dog board going. And I have to say, Mac, it was epic. It was so good.
It was beautiful.
It was so good. So go check it out if you missed it. Twitter, Instagram. Mac, what are your, before we get into Graham Neff, of course, this is very important. What do you put on a hot dog?
I'm a ketchup mustard guy.
Okay. Ketchup,
It's
that's
pretty
it?
basic. Yeah. I mean,
No relish?
no. Maybe some chili if you want to go crazy.
Oh, you would find a way to put more meat on the hot dog.
Yeah, you know. But no, somebody commented, our guy Adam commented, it was like, I can't do ketchup. I think he's what he said. I'm like, dude, you're psychotic. That's crazy. I guess just mustard. Just mustard. But I'm going to back up just for 1 second. When you told me you were doing a hot dog board, I didn't know what I was going to get.
You were like,
and
why?
I have to say, no, not why. I was just intrigued. I was very happy. I was like, yes, of course. But I didn't know what it would be. And far exceeded all expectations. I mean, it was, if you would have glued it together, you could have put that in like the hot dog wall or hall of fame, like easily.
We said the Pledge of Allegiance to the board before we ate the hot dogs. Yeah. It was an American flag hot dog board for people who haven't seen the picture.
Of course.
But yes, it was so good. You got to do ketchup, mustard, and relish on there, in my humble opinion.
I have no quarrel with that. No quarrel at all.
It was delightful. And, you can get a good hot dog in Death Valley. And that's
right.
where we're going next with Clemson Athletic Director Graham Neff. He's been at Clemson since 2013, which is back in our day, Eric McLean. Yeah. But he's been the athletic director since 2022. Might still be the youngest Power 4 AD in the country. Sorry, I don't have that exactly, but he looks the youngest, I'll tell you that.
Well, he's getting up there. There's some grays coming in. It took him a while to be able to log on. I had to shoot him like like, are you okay? Do we need to help you with this? So he's getting up there.
He is. But it's always great to talk to Graham. We talked to him last summer, and it feels like a lot has changed this summer. A bit more stability in certain areas and maybe less in other areas. But, Mac, his legacy really will always be that he is the man that brought beer to Death Valley. And, I mean, look, you can't ask for much more than that when it comes to legacy.
Yeah, it's a big deal. It really is. From, number one, just the fan experience, but also the revenue that's going to bring. There's a lot of things. I think it was Clemson and the Mormons. We were the only ones. BYU and Utah, we're the only ones not having beer in our stadium. So we get to check that box off. We're gone. See ya. Utah, y'all can
Mormons.
have fun. Yeah, y'all can keep doing your thing. But it is always a pleasure to talk with Graham. He's such a busy guy. And every time I text him just to ask, I'm like, there's no way he has time. But he finds a way, finds a day, and always very grateful for him. And just the insight, because he's a really big picture guy for all of college athletics, not just what's happening at Clemson. Like, he has this pulse on a lot of things, and it's fun to talk with him and chat with him and spitball about different things. This is very Clemson specific, but just some other general things that, who knows, maybe coming down the road. So we're very grateful for this conversation. You guys are going to love it. We dive into this easily could have been a 2-hour podcast, but we like I said, he doesn't have that time.
He doesn't have time.
We got to get him out. So anyway, we're doing a great deal here with him. But first, KG, we've got some stuff we need to give away. If you guys missed episode 500, I don't know what you're doing. Go back and listen to it. But Kelly, we're doing some fun stuff with that episode.
Yeah, tell them what they can win. Okay, so for our 500th episode, we're doing a big giveaway partnering with our great partner over at Ingles. We have 2 Clemson tickets, some good tickets. Shout out to Eric, one of our Eric McLean's family members. We have some good tickets here, excluding the LSU game. Come on, we can't pull all those strings. But any other game, you get 2 tickets to the game, $500 Ingles gift card for tailgating. You could throw the biggest tailgate ever, and a $500 travel voucher because we want fans outside of Clemson to enter this. So go to our Instagrams at Eric McLean, at Kelly Gramlich. I'm going to link it below in the description of this episode. Enter now. We'll announce the winner on June 30th. It's very easy to enter. The directions are there if you click the link. And yeah, we hope to see you guys in Death Valley.
Come on. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm very excited for this giveaway. There's also a charitable piece to it. We're going to be giving some money back with Ingles to Hurricane Helene, the relief that's still ongoing there. So trying to help out some folks in the upstate, in the Carolinas as well. But go check that out. Quickly, a message from our friends at Ingles, and then we're talking all things Tigers with Graham Neff.
Did you know that Ingles sells more organics than any other store? Or that they run their own dairy? Or that they only serve USDA choice and prime meat? Did you know that they have more local craft beer than any place else? Or that they have Energy Smart stores? Or that they professionally slice and package imported cheese from Europe? Did you know about their giant international aisle, local farm partnerships, curbside pickup, wine department? Or that they donate 3,956 meals a day to local food banks? Well, now you do. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Graham, Neff, what's up, brother? Welcome back to the show. We did this last summer, and we're just like, hey, a lot of things have changed since then. So we're kind of doing a state of the union. What the heck's going on? What's going on at Clemson? But great to see you. Thank you for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me. No doubt, it's a rites of summer, and I know you guys kind of have these in the queue, but happy to hop on and talk on current status, and we can future cast and we can look back a little bit and just chop it up. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Graham, the way Mac puts that, it feels like there's maybe some more stability this summer, but also it feels like there's never stability because it's college athletics and things are crazy. I mean, how would you kind of characterize where Clemson is, where the ACC is now compared to when we talked a year ago?
Yeah, we're sitting here talking. It's end of May, call it 1st of June in 25, and so we just came off of this was a couple weeks ago, I guess, the our ACC spring meetings, and you guys have gone from time to time down there with the network presence and things like that. And I would tell you they were the most kind of forward-looking, like. I won't say productive necessarily, not to say that they weren't productive, but like they've typically been productive. But this was such a future-looking, strategic type sense, and I think I give that perspective. Commissioner Phillips, I think, is really charged and focused ahead. Obviously, a huge part of that for our league is the membership settlement and disputes, right? Which I'm happy to talk on. But I just think that gives a really good auspice or tailwind to what's ahead for the league from a governance, a management standpoint. But ultimately, that gets down to performance on the field and competitive excellence. And so for the ACC, first year of expanded playoff and having two teams in the playoff was an important deal. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking on basketball, men's and women's, but men's basketball performance, like high importance. So some of the strategies with that changed the number of conference games, et cetera, on the men's side. But I do think a lot of coaching changes throughout men's and women's basketball and football. Head coaches come to our spring meetings. And so new faces, and that's, I mean that in a positive way. I think there's a lot of investment within the league, and there's opportunities for the league to continue to have investment from the highest levels, right? And that's what we talk about a lot, particularly at Clemson, is our alignment. And that means Jim, President Clements, and our trustees, and that's been our secret sauce, we feel like, for quite some time. And I feel like there's a really good consensus within the league, within the ACC of, gosh, now's a critical time in college athletics. Kelly, your point, a lot of moving parts, and now more important than ever to perform, and that means investment and alignment and good decisions and good governance. And I just think that there's that type of sense within the ACC right now, certainly compared to what the last handful of years have been.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack just from that, kind of the opening statement, if you will. But I think what probably most fans, and specifically Clemson fans, are interested in is that settlement that you brought up, and the fact that it got done. And it was probably a really weird place for y'all, for the ACC, for all parties involved. And now it just feels like we can breathe. And it's like, okay, here we go. Things are defined. There's numbers. There's accountability. And also we probably got something we really wanted done with some unequal share of the revenue there. I have to assume, but I'll ask you, is Clemson kind of pleased with the outcome of the settlement?
Yeah, listen, a couple things before I dive into maybe some of the mechanics. One, because it was, and I forget your phraseology there, Mac, but like it was a tough circumstance to be in membership disputes is how Commissioner Phillips phrased it, which I thought was appropriate and well stated. But to his credit, and the appreciation of how he himself as commissioner, let alone kind of led or required in a lot of regards of his staff, meaning our ACC staff and our other ADs and staff around the tables, so to speak, of just to compartmentalize what the last year was, because it wasn't easy. And we at Clemson certainly didn't take it lightly of that type of pursuit, call it, like the legal path is not something to take lightly, obviously, but we certainly didn't. The compartmentalization of like, hey, we still have job to do, and we need to lock arms and win, and it's for the ACC, and we have to make decisions, and those aren't always unanimous on like, officiating or scheduling or whatever the topic may be, but compartmentalizing, the membership circumstance over here and kind of being one of 18 members for Clemson. And again, commissioner leading 18 schools was really, really important. So like that was a mindset that is easy to say, hard to do, but like over that past year, couldn't have been more appreciative of that. And also, I'll say, as I put my Clemson hat on, was very thoughtful and strategic and mindful, whatever adjective we want to use, of how we handled our business, so to speak. And again, that goes from top down in our board and how they messaged and thought through things, and certainly even all the way down to those of us that have microphones in front of us with our coaches and student athletes, et cetera. So we talked about that a lot as far as being good members of the ACC, and a better Clemson, a strong Clemson is good for the ACC, and a strong ACC is good for Clemson. That's kind of been the mindset for the past year, and I know that's something I'm going to continue to lean on now that we have reached a settlement, so to speak, but ultimately a new business model for the ACC, Mac, which is your point in question. Unequal revenue distribution is, again, certainly something that we're going to continue to lean in on, have value of we feel like where our brand is. But ultimately, it comes down to performance and what has been, but really what is able to be earned. And that was a really fundamental component to this on behalf of the whole ACC, that there's no prescribed unequal revenue distribution because, hey, we're Clemson or whomever in the league. But based on performance, and this is in the viewership, the television lens, but obviously there's a lot of linearity to on-field performance in football and men's basketball. And so every school in the league has the opportunity to, again, back to our first component here of discussion, invest, have great performance, which leads to now more than ever direct dollars towards those to continue to fuel investment. So again, all that to say, yes, very pleased with it, of course. Certainly leans into our strength that we've been and we'll continue to invest and have high expectations of performance as we look to compete, certainly within the ACC, but on a national level with all of our sports. And so very pleased with that, well led here at Clemson at the highest of levels. And we're excited to roll up the sleeves and now get to business now that we have a lot of the governance changes or call it issues at hand over the past couple of years that we've navigated through.
Yeah, that's good stuff, Graham. And, one thing that when we knew we were having you on, this was probably the first question Mac and I both wanted to ask, but we had to, ease you in. But this is exciting for fans, I think, for college football fans, Clemson fans, Notre Dame fans. This series that has been announced, 12-year series of Notre Dame and Clemson playing every year. This is awesome. Two brands coming together. They've had some classic games as of late. As we know, Mac played in at least one of them, if I'm trying to remember correctly. So how did this come about? And how excited are you for this partnership?
Yeah, it was a decade ago since Mac played, and it's getting harder to recall.
So old.
Oh, golly.
It was a little rain, I think, that game, just a teeny amount.
Just a state of emergency.
Your circumstance at that time, Mac, you were probably a nasty, wet mess afterwards.
Oh, the beard.
Oh my God.
A lot of stuff hanging out. It was gross.
Kelly, obviously a huge deal for Clemson, for Notre Dame. Again, it has implications at on a national scale, which is not why we did it, but like it's that, we are that convicted on a decision, a partnership like this. Again, call it brand on brand. You hit all that. You hit the highlights from a optics standpoint for sure. Now, there's a lot of layers to the strategy. From future scheduling standpoint and how we balance our conference and non-conference scheduling. Obviously, our annual rivalry with the Gamecocks is a non-negotiable and has always had classics. A lot of moving parts with the CFP, right? We're hearing that right now here in summer of 25 of what not only 25 fall looks like, but what 26 and beyond looks like. Format, what the metrics are around metrics around selection would be, and how to strength the schedule balance within that. How do we not only protect ourselves? That feels a little defensive, but also from an offensive standpoint, how are we helping to continue to push the envelope and position Clemson nationally. And again, that from a competitive standpoint, for on-field wins, loss, and then access to the playoff and performance. But then obviously linking back to our prior discussion here of viewership and dollars and cents, like that's a layer to it too, of course. Like let's just be frank. And so all those aspects. And then here's the cool thing too, like the traditional aspects of this, of the rivalry that has been really formed over the past decade with these like high-level, key, memorable games. We expect that to continue. But then also, and again, it's easy to talk about viewership and television and scheduling strategy, but this is the traditional nature of this is a long-term 12 game. These are on-campus games. Like, so for our fans, back to your point, Kelly, like our fans and what this means for, a Saturday in the fall in the Valley or South Bend, and how we've had such great reciprocity of our fans, of kind of the culture and the endearment and those type of welcoming environments, I guess, so to speak, but like huge deal. And so, again, all the ramifications and the layered strategy, there was a lot to it. Pete Bavacqua, my counterpart there at Notre Dame, he and I were really lockstep with it for quite some time, but the timing and the details, we had to be thoughtful of how that rolled out. And again, we still have scheduling takes part, like football scheduling is like so far in advance. And so there's a little bit of like, gosh, huge deal, roll it out. And now there's a little bit, okay, like things have got to bake and we got to get to it that we're excited to. But it's a huge deal and we're really excited about it.
It really is. And again, I think there's so many nuances. We do not have 3 hours here to dive into all these things. I wish we did, because there's a ton that we could maybe break down. Maybe you don't wish that, but I do. But one piece about that I think just kind of from a bigger picture, and you mentioned the eyeballs and how important that is, and with the new ACC kind of shared there with the money distribution, are we as Clemson looking more at non-traditionals, at different opponents? Will we see less of App State and Wofford and things of that nature, just because, and maybe, I think it's very public now, playing South Carolina on a Friday standalone where you get all the eyeballs in the country. It's not so much we'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime. Now it's, no, we're going to play big dogs standalone on this day. Like, how much of that is with you and Coach Swinney and different things kind of schedule model now?
Yeah, it's a lot of, you hit all the interrelated pieces. A couple things that jump out. First of all, we're fortunate here at our state to have really strong FCS programs, right? And so where we've played one of those every year, and we're scheduled to, at least for the foreseeable future. One of your questions, hey, does that change? I don't know. Maybe, right? There's a lot of discussions on what that looks like. And is
there like legal binding things there? Like, do we have to, the state of South Carolina, like you have to play that, or can
I've heard that. Get out of I'm not aware of that, Mac,
okay.
or I've never been cited of like, hey, this, it's just kind of how we've done it. And so when we play an FCS every year, as we've scheduled it out, when we play as we've played an FCS every year, again, we're fortunate that there's those great, strong brands with great following and passion and competitive, opportunities within our state. And so like we've been, I've gotten questioned a lot over the years from FCS programs that want to play, and I've good pals or colleagues there. Or relationships or our coaches do, but we play those in state, keep the economics in the state, travel, like again, brand association, things like that. So that has been, and should FCS opponents continue, that's going to continue to be our mindset. Now, to your question, do those change? Do those become spring games or exhibitions? Right? Those questions are all out there, or those discussions are all out there. And so we'll see, but I would tell you like that there's a whole lot of those. That's a little downstream, I guess, maybe is how I think about it. As we continue we've been really consistent. And again, this has been a Coach Swinney mantra since he was a young coach trying to come in and build Clemson, up from a national brand standpoint of you got to play big dogs to your phrase, Mac, and you got to win those games too. And so we've been really consistent with playing 10 of the 12 games of Power 5 games. Got our 8 ACC games, got South Carolina, that's 9. And then, right, we have this, the extra one that we've scheduled, and that's been Georgia and Texas A&M and LSU this year and Notre Dame when they've been on the schedule and off. So we're going to absolutely, at a minimum, continue that type of methodology. Now, as strength of schedule value continues to take shape, and I think there's some momentum towards strength of schedule becoming even more prominent as it relates to evaluating resumes and college football playoff expanding. So it's not as much sorted just by, win-loss record, but there's a more of a total evaluation of a resume that, and again, that has good tailwinds of being good for fans, because that would purport to stronger schedules, and maybe instead of 9 or 10 Power 5 games, schools are playing 10 or 11, and then what does that do for your G5, your App State or Charlotte examples, or your FCSs? So I'm not necessarily giving any real specific, hey, this is if this then that, other than to give affirmation to your point of like, a lot of this is really active in conversation at the decision making level, not just at kind of like the media perspective level. And I think that there's a lot of the sequencing of, okay, what does the CFP look like? What do the metrics around scheduling and resume look like? What a conference membership and games look like, and then how you waterfall it out from there to get into a lot of these schedules. But here's the thing, and we even link back, I think we maybe referenced COVID, or certainly Clemson Notre Dame had 2 big time matchups during the COVID 2020 year. We did, I think there is this balance or this recognition now that while scheduling for football games is like, a decade in the future, but we have the adaptive. We've learned ourselves.
We can do it quick.
COVID.
We can do it.
We can be real adaptable here, And so I think that to me puts more near term some of these big picture discussions to like, hey, there's a lot of nimbleness that as an industry that we can or should have that allows for some of these changes or interesting thoughts to feel more near term, because that's possible now.
Well, okay, speaking of scheduling, this is my last scheduling question. We've seen some of the SEC meetings are going on. The SEC coaches just say whatever they want.
Are people talking about that? Is anything going on down there?
Yeah, they just say whatever they want. And they're talking about, I guess, maybe going to 9 games, SEC games, whatever it is. And I know you can't, see the future, Graham, and you're talking about so many things down the road, but I know fans would want to know. Is Clemson, South Carolina safe in your mind?
Absolutely in my mind, and Ray Tanner, their prior AD, who's still on staff there, and then Jeremiah, their new AD, who's a longtime buddy of mine, good friend, and we're probably cut out of the same cloth in a lot of regard. So we've established a lot of discussion point, but I guess I'll answer your question by saying we've a double negative. We've never talked about not playing that game. It's just not a discussion point in a non-negotiable way. Now, again, Mac, you referenced a Black Friday. I know there used to be big Thursdays. And so where it fits within the grand scheme, I think that certainly is fair discussion. Grand scheme meaning from like just the seasonality of the schedule. But playing it, Kelly, there's no, that's a non-negotiable, I guess, from our lens for sure.
Good. I'm sure a lot of people are, thinking about it, because change is coming, and there was that year that it didn't happen, and it was really weird for a lot of people. We've danced around all around settlements in the ACC, but there's also another really big settlement out there that is pending, and we have no idea, and that's kind of the house case here. What's happening with that? I mean, I don't want to say misinformation, but there's a lot of information about it. So just from your perspective, from Clemson's perspective, where the heck are we with the house case there?
Yeah, so we sit here, it's May 29th, right? And we're still all just kind of waiting on determination one way or the other. Obviously, within the industry, there's confidence that the settlement is to be accepted. And there's been tweaks and resubmissions and briefs along the way. There's a lot of work that has been done. That's kind of queued up to be rolled out upon anticipated settlement adoption or acceptance or judgment. And I've sat on this House Implementation Committee, and as it relates to a lot of the revenue share discussions and kind of rule making, I guess, what commercial NIL looks like. And when I say I guess, I mean there's a lot of specifics there. My point is like, hey, I'm pleased to have been kind of inside some of the sausage making there, so to speak. So I would anticipate, right? We're talking here end of May, and so future viewership, and there can be a little bit of time capsule of things that I'm about to say that might totally prove to be true or not.
This comes out pretty quick. This is coming out Monday, so if they solve something in the next 3 days, then we can edit this out.
Here we are, right? Live time. So there's a lot that's queued up. There's a lot of like the rules, and I say that not in a bureaucratic way, but like to activate and implement and codify what the intention is around the key verticals of the house case settlement. So like for us, right, there's revenue share, the 20.5 million, and then there's the deductions within that as far as how you do scholarships and Alston money. So I think you'll find a lot of schools, or at least for Clemson, how we've thought about it, we've given we have good direction ahead, and we've given direction, so to speak, to our coaches on scholarship planning and roster planning. That's had some moving parts here over the past couple months, obviously, and our revenue share distribution plan. So we kind of have direction ahead, but you have to have optionality with it, because there's just uncertainty, not only from the judgment standpoint, but also as you get into this thing, and all of it to take effect July 1st. And so year one is a significant transitional year. And so we're really convicted on how we want to go about it with our scholarship plan, of which we're fully funding effectively all of our sports, adding 150 new scholarships. It's a huge deal. IPTAY, 91 years of support for scholarships and academics. You two are IPTAY members. And so we couldn't take that type of investment and commitment to all 21 of our sports without that local support. I mean, it's an affordability aspect for sure. And so this balance that so much of what House Case creates from a change standpoint for college athletics is direct revenue share with your student athletes. That is a seminal type change. So I think, therefore, what gets less talked about, less headlines, understandably, is the scholarship deregulation. And that is so fundamental to college athletics. So we have this new change and new business model and revenue share. Holy cow. But more scholarships, which, gosh, for opportunity and investment. And again, we're taking the tact across all 21 of our sports to lean in there to the fullest. And so that's a great thing. And again, we have good direction there, but we have to make sure we continue to be balanced and affordable, because leaning into revenue share, 20.5 million, and the reconciliation of that, that's a huge competitive edge. And then lastly, and I'll pause here, is the priority of how schools can facilitate and have strategy around commercial NIL, right? Which now has to go through a clearinghouse, NIL Go, more rigor around how that is accomplished in the marketplace. And so we've launched, this was in the fall, Clemson Ventures, which is our commercial revenue vertical here within our athletics department. It's in-house in nature, but it has some distinct structure to it. And a lot of that is to generate revenue for Clemson athletics. And there's all kinds of different ways of our strategies there. But it's also to really bolt in and help with great facilitation for our student athletes from a commercial NIL standpoint. Going to be really a competitive advantage or piece there to be able to stack on top of revenue share. So again, there's a lot there. Mac, I've laced in kind of the Clemson strategies and thought process to some of the industry. Hey, where do things sit and kind of what's your pulse? But that's for us, that has been frontal focus necessarily as we adopt and implement well, keeping optionality as we're all living through year one and kind of what the puts and takes are, while also trying to be very aggressive from a competitive lens standpoint to activate within the marketplace.
You bring up Clemson Ventures. Graham, you knew that we were going to talk about the big 4-letter word here, and that's beer. That was going to happen at 10 a.m. in this interview. But, I mean, seriously, like so many other stadiums sell alcohol. And, of course, Clemson, one of the things we love about Clemson is it's very old school. It's very traditional. How did this come about? And, Graham, is your legacy going to be the guy that brought beer to Death Valley?
Also, what's in the cup, Graham? That was beer time. That's crazy.
It's not. Kelly. Yeah, I'm glad it's not a red Solo cup. I guess it is my second cup of coffee for the morning.
Got it.
Black and yes,
strong,
caffeinated. So the black and strong. Is that my legacy? Boy, I hope that's not the case. But here's the thing, because you're right, Kelly, and you two know more than any of just. The importance of fan experience. It's different everywhere. Every place has their unique culture and feel, but like we're really, really proud and put a lot of time and thought into how that works within all of our venues, the Valley for sure, but all of our other venues. And obviously we've been beta testing in baseball and softball this spring game, Savannah Bananas. We can talk on that. Sure. So it's this balance of the fan environment and experience, which, right, the reality is that for, some of the feedback that we got on selling alcohol, both sides of that coin, because right, to your point, Kelly, throughout venues in the country, collegiately or otherwise, that's just become that is very, very typical of a fan offering, call it. And so yeah, so that piece to it, for sure. Now, the revenue driver, yeah, like I don't want to be disingenuous. That's part of it, but that wasn't the why per se. But us having a great environment, family friendly, all walks of life, but us to do it in a really managed and safe, but additive to the environment way. And yeah, we're going to roll that out. As I said, we did this spring. Our first football game in the Valley will be LSU at night. Like, boy, oh boy. And so excited about it. But again, we're going to do it in the Clemson way, which is going to be which is a non-negotiable. How we add things to the stadium, specifically something that's as sensitive and needs to be managed well as selling alcohol or call it beer, the 4-letter word. Yeah.
Yeah. Graham, one thing that you kind of mentioned there, we've got about 10 minutes here, and I want to just kind of big picture touch. You can go whichever way you want with kind of the additive revenue and creative things that you guys are doing. You bring up the Savannah Bananas, how amazing that was. I don't know the numbers. I don't know if you made a ton of money, but it was really cool.
I was there. It was epic.
Yeah, you were, epic. But doing other things like that. Are there going to be concerts coming in, or is Death Valley going to be rocking? Is Lil Jon, things of that nature? But also we've seen other schools, have logos on the field and things of that nature. And, I'm thinking, I'm watching NBA playoffs. I'm seeing jersey patches, things of that nature. Like, where from creative revenue generation deal from those kind of 4 things do you see Clemson pursuing pretty heavily in the near future?
Yeah. You certainly hit off some of the probably the high level ones, meaning that would be changed within college athletics, or certainly have big value. In both UCOM and MAC, you more specifically from that. That's how you got your start, really, right, in college athletics, and you worked with our multimedia partner and the sales and sponsorship side. So I know you guys are cut out of that mold. And so for us, Clemson Ventures is a really unique play and strategy, and it's in-house in nature. And so it takes a lot of the intention is to take a lot of the professional sports revenue strategies and kind of pull them to college athletics. Because most all of the American pro sports franchises, they do those type of activities in-house, and they own the equity of that, so to speak. And I would tell you, and this links back to a little bit of your question, Mac, and then Kelly, your point previously when we were talking about alcohol, I've really felt that it's pushed us, it's pushed me, and it's pushed campus from our collective decision making to be creative. I think was your word, and call it aggressive of how we do look to find solutions that do generate revenue, because it's really easy for us to just sit back and kind of find the a common path. But when we do own the equity of these decisions, and therefore the dollars of decisions for sponsors or partners, that takes on a little bit of a different feel. And we still got to have to do that in a Clemson way, which is a subjective term, but like it when you see it, and that's how we think about it here. And we've hired leadership, Michael Drake, who came from the Atlanta Hawks, and before that was with the Falcons and the Cowboys and the 49ers. And so bringing that type of professional sports revenue expertise to Clemson and to campuses, think is something we're going to continue to lean into. And so all that to be said, yes, we are talking about sponsorship of courts and field logos, things like that. The partnerships is a better word. And jersey patches, sure, that's still regulated from an NCAA standpoint. And listen, it's not going to be NASCAR, or we're not going to be a minor league ballpark. We're having logos all over the outfield, et cetera. But so there's a thoughtful way to do that. And again, for us to have the play of Clemson Ventures, not only to have that in-house here to athletics, but my last point to this is uniquely the leverage and how we connect throughout campus. Because it's one thing, and this is where there is a difference from a professional sports standpoint, is that professional sports, you're selling the team and the franchise, so to speak. Great, huge value, and it can, throughout a whole city. But for Clemson, we have that too, brand recognition, athletics, et cetera. But gosh, we have 28,000 students that are in an 18 to 22-year-old demographic, which is a key buying power and future longevity of brand association. So it has great value, let alone how we bring opportunities to campus and internships and experiential side of things and scholarships. So our ability to be really integrated throughout campus, and this comes to my peers and colleagues and leadership from President Clements, et cetera, like that type of synergy and connectivity from a total campus standpoint to present and connect with potential partners for activation and partnership. That's where there's great value and great partnership, which goes well beyond just, hey, whatever logo is painted on the football field. And so that's how we think about this in a really broad sense. To generate revenue, sure. But again, to how we have great partnerships and present value to our partners, but also throughout campus is a really unique play and opportunity how we're leaning into it.
If you want us to clip this and send it to any sponsor you might be talking to, just let us know, and we can do that.
We'll have to scrub we'll have to watermark maybe the background that you have.
Well, maybe not. Who knows?
Mac,
Who knows? Whatever you need.
We'll send the JPEG of our logo over now. Great. Okay, last one for me. Let's talk about the head man. Let's talk about Dabo Swinney, because it feels like, I think a lot of people have noticed this, probably post winning the ACC championship, making the playoff, a really good showing in Austin in that game, and then hitting the portal. It feels like Dabo's rejuvenized in some way. I mean, have you noticed this at all?
Well, absolutely. And I was kind of remarking with one of our donors, actually, and when we were in Austin, Texas for the softball regional, we just had some travel time. And if you think about, I don't want to pull any of our Clemson fans back to the Saturday after Thanksgiving at like middle of the afternoon, like just hard.
It's a dark place, brother. It was a dark place.
I know where I was sitting and just kind of sulking is probably the best way to say it. But since that, if you call that a low point, or at least in like over the past 6 months now, like so many key decisions and just like wins and obviously getting, fortunate and making Charlotte, and then how we won the game and in the CFP and had a strong showing against Texas, even though we were on the short side of it. And then roster retention and roster addition, your point, Kelly, portal, right? And some staff investment and changes for sure. Some recruiting wins now as we're starting the new class. Obviously, we get our scheduling piece. And so, again, we could keep going and stacking those things up. The LSU game being announced at 7:30, not that that's Dabo. Your question is more specific on Dabo. But, like, all just, like, the energy and decisions and trajectory for Clemson football, not that it's gone from this to this, but, like, it's just been a really, really positive 6 months, which is, I'm affirming, I think, your general point there, Kelly. But I would tell you this with Dabo. My sense is, right, in his – amongst many of his attributes, like just, I think the one that's top of the list is his positivity and optimism and going to figure it out and conviction and bet on yourself, so to speak. Like that's remained unchanged for him. But for him, like most all coaches in college athletics these days, pick your sport, it's been really, really hard last 3 or 4 years, just the lack of, call it, regulations and uncertainty and NIL and holy cow. So now I think, as we talked about house case before, you can kind of see we're not there yet, and there's intentions and there's still some uncertainty, but like you can see some more of the order ahead and the intentions of how they're supposed to look. And so I think that type of mindset and, hey, tell us the rules and we'll go play by it and we'll win, like that's just kind of baked within him. And so I think the closer we get to that point and him to still have the convictions around how his program is led and run, like that just gives a lot of buoyancy of energy, et cetera. So I think it's a little bit of all that. I do know for him and Kathleen personally, and just from a family and their boys and like, gosh, Clemson and what's ahead for us, and obviously expectations towards the fall with the team and roster and all that. Like, it's just, he's remained unchanged in so many ways. So even if you look back 3 or 4 years, it's never been, gosh, well, like, how's Dabo doing? But I would affirm from my lens and just the work that we do together, like, man, I get excited for the place that he's in and ultimately for the place that Clemson football is in as a program and for what that looks like come August 30th, let alone for the months and years ahead.
No question about it. G, this is awesome. You're amazing. Thank you so much for your time. So many things that we covered today and really grateful you could spell it out for us, man. Always great to see you.
Well, thanks for having me on. It's just a conversation between the three of us, and again, you guys aren't bashful with your Tiger love and background, which we sure appreciate. Again, this is a rites of summer as we started, so we can get it on the schedule for summer 26. But obviously, certainly, anytime in the meantime, would happy to hop on. Thanks for having me this morning with my cup of coffee, Kelly.